Hey guys, it's your boy Eli and Daniel. We're here to talk about, well, basically we're the Geek Centurions, and we're here to talk about some anime stuff because it's been a long time since we talked about some anime, hasn't it, Daniel?
Yes, it has. It has been. I want to say like maybe I don't know more than 5 or 10 episodes ago.
Yeah, it probably was. I think the last thing we talked about was Dragon Ball, and that was more about the movie than the actual show.
Yeah, even then that was more of the movie.
Yeah. So Daniel threw me a fun idea about how about we talk about some animes that deserve a second season. And I thought, how about we also talk about shows that need a reboot because there's anime shows that really don't do service to the source material. Because for those of you who don't know, I like to read manga more than I watch anime sometimes because I get it faster, and I don't have to wait
Hmm.
like 3, 4, 5 years for it to be adapted into an anime. Looking at you, Hunter X Thunder.
Yeah, and plus apparently like animes like that aired like years ago, they can suddenly come back and get another season now.
Oh hell
Recently,
yeah!
The Devil is a Part Timer. One of the good animes that I like watching a while back. It suddenly just
Hmm.
announced a second season after almost a decade or 8 years to
Hmm.
be exact.
And you know what other anime that just got announced that has a second season? That is also a
Well, that,
reboot of a past show, Megalobox 2.
mm, uh, oh shit, that's right. Megalobox was announced as well.
Yeah, that's right, and that is more of a remake or inspired by the old manga slash anime Ashito no Joe or Average Joe. I think that's what it's pronounced.
Hmm.
Yeah, and like that's basically
You
a
mean
plot.
how'd you know Ippo? The boxing
No,
one?
that's a different one. That one's surprisingly still going, to my surprise.
I was I was about to say it's like I'm getting it mixed up now.
I mean, listen, I've seen a lot of soccer anime and I've seen a lot of boxing anime. I feel like we need at least one more or an anime one. But I digress. I digress. I digress.
Yeah.
Essentially, that's like I said, a remake slash reboot of that kind of show. I recommend it. It's on Netflix, I think, and I'm really excited for season 2 because season 1 was amazing. I love the art style, and that's why I'm saying like we're gonna talk. We're just gonna throw some stuff out there about why we think these shows deserve like a second season, or why we feel like these shows kind of deserve a reboot. And me and Daniel, before we recorded, talked about some shows. I'm like, oh yeah, that does need a reboot because that adaptation sucked. And, and I
Hmm.
already, and Daniel's like, oh, we're gonna talk about that. He's giving me the look.
Yeah.
All right, so Dan, how about
Like
you
you should
start
know
off?
by now.
I almost forgot, and I'm like, how dare I forget this one show that we both love? Gosh,
So
here's the
we'll
thing.
get into that later.
We'll get to that later because I actually have a very a contrary to popular belief statement. But yeah, go ahead. I'll let you start off. Any show or anime that you feel like deserves a reboot or a second season?
Yeah, so one that well not technically a second season, but a third, and this one was the one that got me back into anime. And this one was Spice and Wolf.
Spice and Wolf?
Yeah, Spice and Wolf.
It's one of those animes that everyone loves, but I have yet to see it. It's probably because it's one of those shows that like the more you recommend, the more I don't want to watch it. Kind of situation for me. But no,
Like,
I trust you. That why
like
why why do you say to the audience that's listening at home?
let's
Why do you
see.
feel like that show needs a second third season?
For one, let's say the story at the end of the second season kind of felt like it just left off, where
Mm-hmm.
it could have continued. And plus, there's just so much material now. In fact, the story's actually finished now. It actually
Mm-hmm.
made on to make a sequel. I forgot what was it called. It was like Wolf and Parchments, I think. I'm definitely getting it wrong right now, but yeah, it's a great story. Like I wasn't expecting, like a whole, a random wolf deity traveling with a merchant and goes into economics and everything. You would think that is the most
Yeah,
boring shit
that's the
ever.
thing I heard about. Like, if you want to learn about some stuff about like economics, that's probably one of the best shows to go with.
Yeah, like you'd think it would be boring, but no, it's actually fun. I love the characters. I love the different weird stories that they get into, and the way they left out at season two. I could have thought they would win. Or I thought they could have went for another season, but
Anybody.
yeah, like I definitely want to see a season three for the show.
Oh no, no, I understand. It's one of those shows that I compare it to Doctor Stone for all the newbie anime fans out there, or someone who wants to get into anime. Like Doctor Stone is one of those shows that like here's action packed and all that stuff, but also you get to learn a little bit about science, and it's. it's actually holds up pretty well. And if you do your research on it, you're like, oh, these guys, they know what they're talking about. And so, and Spice and Wolf is very
Yeah,
similar to that, where you learn about economics.
yeah, it's
But yeah, no, but I
yeah. It's
thought it
also
was
just one
already.
of the few animes where like, what happened?
Oh no, no, continue, continue. I'll go after you.
Oh, like I was about to say, like it's one of the few animes that actually made me go out and actually read the manga to continue the story as well. And
Mm-hmm.
speaking of manga, actually, I need to catch up and finish that as well.
Yeah, it's one of those shows that I feel like personally. What I was gonna say, and I'm continuing this one, is I thought the show was already like done. Like there was no more you could go back to. But you're saying it needs more. All right, that's
like,
cool.
like no, like yeah, I would like to see like more stories, get animated and
Mhm.
everything. I mean, it's like Prison School, like yeah, it ended on a good note at the end, and you know what? There's surprisingly more into the story as you go on. Depending
Yeah,
if
but
you read it or not. Robin?
I was gonna say yeah, but from what I've heard, that ending is not that great from the manga's perspective.
It's not. It's a very controversial ending, but who knows? Maybe they can change it for Prison School. But the point being
Yeah,
is, there's a lot
do a
more.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, like yeah. So like, but even then, yeah. The point is, there's a lot more story. I mean, it's finished.
Hmm.
They perfectly have all the materials they need to animate all this stuff, and then
Hmm.
not worry about fillers or anything like that.
Yeah, and I think that's gonna lead me on to one of my thought shows. And now I'm gonna talk about a show I feel like needs a reboot. And this show, I agree, I read this the manga for it, and it's one of those mangas that really is completely different from what you expect from the show. And this manga was Rosario Vampire, and it's like it's a
Mm.
kid going to high school with monsters, there's a vampire chick, da da da, and the show takes what you would think of that, like, hey, here's the shenaniganery, and stuff that you people who never seen anime kind of associate anime with, like schoolgirls, panties, and not. Yeah, I know, but when you read the book, it's not that. It is completely not that. No, it's a cool story about that also has a lot of action, like a lot of cool action, where like this kid's like trying to make friends and like understand these people who are different creatures, monsters, and all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of
Mm.
fighting and there's a lot of like intrigue in the story. Like I remember showing the book because I have one of the mangas with me over there, and he was like, "Okay, I've seen the anime. The anime is shit compared to this." His words, not mine. Because like
I
for
mean, yeah,
one,
that's
the main
true.
character goes through development. He learns stuff. Stuff happens. There's consequences. While the show is more ha ha ha, let's do some funny stuff. The manga is actually no. If you want a story, go to the manga. I recommend the manga hundredfold over the anime because the manga was so well written, and it left us in a kind of a like okay, what now book ending. But if they continue it, I'll be down for it. But I would love to see them adapt all this stuff because like there's some cool things going on, and it's so sad to me that when people think of that name, they go with the anime, and the anime is complete and utter crap because they rather focus on like the comedic side. And not saying that the manga didn't have comedy, but they missed like the cool storytelling stuff that they had, and like honestly, like a lot of the badass fights. Like, there's a moments where like, man, I wish they did this scene because this scene was so goddamn cool. Yeah, but I'm basically old man yelling to the sky right now because I was like,
I mean, no, like I get you, man. Like, I remember like watching Rosario Vampire. I never read the manga, so I didn't know what I was getting into.
they did.
I watched it. I was like, okay, it's a fun, edgy anime. Like shenanigans and shit like that happens. And then when I went online to see like more why people didn't like, is like really? I thought it was okay, but I didn't think it was bad. But yeah, they were explaining everything you were just saying, and also like also into other details like probably a spoiler, but like the guy becomes a vampire too somehow and gets into fights, and it's like what?
Yeah,
It's like
he has a blood transfusion with the female vampire, and he sort of like he becomes sort of a vampire himself, and has to like defend himself. Like he's not a snivel. I wouldn't say a sniveling coward, but like he's kind of like a little bit of a punk in the anime, but in the show he grows up and like handles his own fights. He can fight, And that's what I'm saying. Like my friend
Yeah.
was like, "This is utter shit compared to the anime," because like he looked at the main character because he always saw the main character as kind of like a soft boy, and he was like, "Yo, why does he?
Mhm.
When did he get swole?" And I'm just like, "Bro, this you gotta read it. You gotta read it, man. This is don't watch that.
Yeah.
Read this." And he was like, "You've changed my life, man. Like I know. Now you know why I'm so mad at the show." But no, let's move on to something else because I don't want to stay on this topic for too long. I feel like it's already like 5 minutes in. But Daniel, what's another show that you feel like deserves a second season or reboot?
Let's see. For a reboot, this is just a personal bias of mine, but if you know me already, you probably already know what I'm about to say. But I think Speed Racer could go for another reboot.
Okay, here's the thing. I know where you're coming from. I know where you're coming from, and I'll add on to that. Okay, but I'm gonna let you
Yeah,
talk about
like I
why
mean,
you
just
feel
look at
like.
it. It's like Tatsunoko is still a thing. Gotcha
Mhm.
Man is still getting like new episodes and still getting animated to this day. I think they only included Speed Racer as a quick cameo in one of the Gotcha Man episodes. It's like okay, it's cool that they still have the old series being made and stuff, but can we get more Speed Racer, please? I mean, we haven't had him since I think the '90s. I don't remember when Speed Racer X was made, but I think it was the '90s.
Mhm. I mean, I don't blame you. Like you've always told me like there's actually some really cool stuff in Speed Racer and there's some actually really dark stuff in Speed Racer. So I don't blame you for
Yeah,
wanting that. And
I mean, it has a strong legacy. Like it was literally like one of the first, probably not the very first, but one of the most prominent animes that became popular in America, and it just has a strong legacy to it, and it's such an inspiration to not just Western pop culture, but also Japanese pop culture as well.
hmm No, man, I know. I 100% know what you mean. Because, like, so those of you who don't know, I am a huge Gundam fan, as you can see from the stuff from Miami. You can't see the bottom kits, but you already know. Oh, there's been a lot of conversations on whether or not they should, among the fans, not like higher ups, but like a lot of people have been talking about should they like remake the original series with newer animation and all that other stuff. And I'm just like, I mean, I get it because it's such a good story, and you want to see that adapted into a bit, not just adapted, but also like done in a way that's a lot more proper. But I don't know, man. I just don't know. I mean, I love the show either way, but I'm not talking specifically about the first one, the original one from 1979, because a lot of people feel like that one needs a little, you need to clean the guy up. He's a little get a little dirt on you. You just gotta wash that off, clean yourself off, make yourself look pretty, and all that stuff. And I think that's what people want for that show. I don't know if I'm fully for it. I think if it gets new people to watch, then yeah, sure. But I don't know, man. It's one of those things. But I know what you're coming from. Like a lot of people are wanting that kind of thing, and I mean, I would like it
Yeah,
too, but I'm not. But I'm not begging for it. I am begging for some reboots. I find it funny. You're talking. We're both. I got more reboots than sequels, second seasons, honestly, because I can't think of one show that needs a second season.
yeah,
Because most of them are getting it now, so I'll say that. Well, actually, no. I think I might know one, but
yeah.
we'll see.
So like,
Uh, and I
but
think I
yeah.
did.
So one of my picks for reboots is Speed Racer.
Yeah. But you just made me realize something. What would be cool to see a second season of? Devilman Crybaby.
Was that Devilman Crybaby? I haven't seen it yet, but I'm hearing a lot of people were always so polarized about it. You got that hardcore fans saying, like it's not good, just watch the original, and then I'm hearing some people say, I guess pretty good, you should check it out. So
Yeah, I'm, I'm
I
on
plan
I'm on
to, I
that
just
boat.
haven't gotten to.
I'm on that boat where you should watch it. It's a really good show. Um, there's a lot of theming there that often like gets overlooked. Um, but no, if you read the manga, there's kind of like a sort of pseudo sequel called Devilman Lady. Yeah, I know the name sounds weird, but just roll with it.
And there's also
That's
Violence
essentially
Jack.
Violence Jack. But I'm saying for a second season, imagine if they had made Devilman Lady, which is just as hardcore, but in like and it does involve a woman, but sort of take it from a different turn. Kind of like how because in that story you find out that because the world was kind of like remade, things changed. Not and so a new different person. become sort of a devil man. That's why we have the lady chick, and whose name I can't remember off the top of my head.
And
And so we can go with that as the second season and fall into that storyline and bring and talk about characters that were in the show that are now on the show because they kind of tease that a bit in the show with a I don't know if you know this, but it's sort of like like you know what, I'm not gonna go with it. I'm sorry, but this is something I recommend you to watch, Daniel, and anyone who hasn't watched it to watch it. Maybe we can maybe then I can talk about it a little bit more. And yeah, you got anything else for me, Daniel?
yeah, so if you guys remember from one of our older videos, it was like where we were talking about like our favorite underrated animes, and my number one pick was Big Out of HK, and I definitely think that would also go for another season as well.
Really? Oh yeah, because the manga goes further, right? I read it.
It does go further, and then it left at a point where like you could go on to see more because I I still think it's very funny. I like to see where it goes on. I mean, it's been I don't know how many years since it last aired, but again, so much materials, and I would like to see them actually getting together, and then it sounds weird when I'm talking about it, but that's basically the whole plot. They're trying to get laid.
I mean, that's the story of so many. But no, I get it. I remember reading it. There was like not twists and turns, but a little more comedic stuff that I would love to see animated. Like I think there was a
Yeah.
moment where I can't really remember off the top of my head, but there's a you know what? I'm probably not gonna mention because I'm probably remembering it wrong. But no, I get what you're saying. I think that show does really need like a second season because like it's a funny show.
Yeah, like I don't. It's a funny show. I just don't know how if it did well in Japan or not. Because
Hmm.
if you try looking it up, like you're just pretty much just going to get like the wiki pages and information telling you all about
Hmm.
it, but you don't see like anything else from it. But yeah, I still think it's very underrated. I think it's a very funny show, and I definitely could go for another season. I mean, you had some weird characters with some weird quirks, like this girl whose brother is in love with Yamada, but she doesn't want him to be with her because she has a crush on her own brother, and it's weird.
Yeah, we yeah, and the whole joke is like we just stop, just stop it, stop.
Yeah, the whole joke is like, you have a problem, please stop. And uh,
Because this
I
thing,
I don't want to say much because
everyone
there's just
knows
so much funny
everyone.
stuff that happens that you have to see.
Oh yeah, no. Um, you know what show deserves a reboot? And I've read the manga again because again I'm the manga reader guy. Hitman Reborn was a show that I feel needs a real reboot from the ground up. Because here's the thing, you know how we always talk, and this is for I'm gonna say this for the people who don't watch that much anime. For whenever there's a long running anime, they always who are adapting stuff from a book, like the manga. They often have to take breaks and do fillers, right? This show
I'm
was
pretty sure most of our yeah.
yeah, but I'm talking about those who have never watched one. That and this
Oh,
show
okay.
had some, and it went on for too it went on too early. Like it was too early in the show in the run for it to have filler when it shouldn't have, and that was Hitman Reborn. Hitman Reborn is one of those shows where like, granted, it started off being more comedic, but it gradually grew into more of an action-packed show. That whenever I showed my friends like fight scenes from it, they were like, "I tried watching this show. Why did it? Why? When does this happen?" I'm like, "Bro, I'm gonna tell you this right now. The show drags on too damn much on the classic comedic stuff. Like the first joke is that hey, there's this baby who's a hitman and he shoots someone in the head, but they don't die because it's a magic bullet that makes people finish what their last thoughts or whatever. And the guy always ends up being in
So
his
you're
underwear.
saying Simpsons did it?
Yeah, Simpsons did it kind of thing. But you know, the funny thing is that he always comes back to life. He comes back to life with full of energy, and for a reason, he's like basically naked, running around the streets until it wears off, and he's still alive. But no, it's I know that sounds a lot, but trust me, it's a good show because later on the he grows and develops as a character. and a lot of stuff. Like there's a lot of stuff that happens, and then it's one of those shows that gets overfilled with filler, and it didn't really need it. If you were to do it now, because like here's the thing, the art is fantastic. Starts off kind of okay, but then it becomes really beautiful. Like, you ever seen Psychopaths?
I I have not, but I heard of it, and I seen their
Yeah,
guns.
but you've seen the images, right? You've seen the art style, right?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, that's the art. That the artist for that show is the artist for Hitman Reborn. So imagine that
Mm.
for this show. That's all. Like you can do it. People really like Psychopaths. If you bring in that show, that story with that art, you're golden. You have it. But I don't know. I'm guessing it didn't do so well because also ended in a cliffhanger where like the manga continued going and it was a pretty good ending for the most part and a pretty cool events that happened down. But yeah, no, that's one that I give my hat off to. That really needs a reboot. What about you, Dan? You got anything for me?
Let's see for another season. Um, I don't know the full name, so I'll say the shortened name. Watamote. I'm not sure if you heard of that, Eli.
Oh, that's there's an English translation for that, but I just cannot remember it.
It's your
I'm gonna
guys'
look it up
fault
again.
that I'm not popular.
Yeah, it's the one.
Yeah,
It's I remember watching it because like I remember the opening being so cool.
yeah. So for those that don't know, basically it's the story about this one girl. She isn't popular. She's socially awkward. Okay, so if you think you yourself is socially awkward, imagine that, but probably 100 times more than that. That's
Oh
how
yeah.
awkward she is, and she gets into weird situations where she record, for example, one time she was recording herself, over over some audio of a, what do you call this, yandere, boyfriends, and their parents overheard her, recording that, and it was so hard to watch considering how embarrassing it was for her. But it
So
gets
yeah, no.
better. Like, yeah, you see all that awkward stuff, and it's funny, and it's kind of hard to watch too on the first season. But if you actually do read the manga and everything, you actually see it kind of gets a lot better for her too, because she does make friends outside of her. I think her name was Yui. Uh, she does make friends outside of her, and uh, it's been a while. The last thing I remember, like she went on that trip, but I did hear like she started making a lot more friends later on in the manga, and definitely want to see that animated and everything.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Okay, I got a couple more to go. Um, first, I'm gonna just throw these out. I'm not really that big a fan of these two series, but I hear a lot that these shows like need a reboot. Dead Man Wonderland apparently people feel like needs a reboot because it ends in a way, or more like a second season. From what I hear, because it just ends in a weird way.
Yeah, it literally just drops. Okay, that happened. The end. No more. It's over.
Yeah, and I always thought that was so weird. And another one was Soul Eater. I hear that one people wanted for like a reboot because like they changed a lot of stuff, or they didn't really do like, or they ended it too early before the book really ended, kind of stuff. I don't know. Do you know anything about it?
I From what I hear, the end it was kind of rushed, and it didn't really end on a high note.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I heard that
That's about it. I haven't seen
I
Soul
heard
Eater.
that I heard the manga, the book did a better job at that because it was the book didn't end yet, but they decided to end it, and I'm just like, why? It was
Yeah,
pretty okay show in my opinion.
I did hear that a lot of. Correct me if I'm wrong. Fans do not like Soul Eater. Not.
Yeah, I heard that too. I heard a lot of people were excited for it, and it turned out to be not as good. And I'm just
Yeah, that's
like,
another thing.
pretty sure I didn't really, I'm pretty sure I didn't really argue that. But you know what? In my opinion, a show that needs a reboot and the proper ending because this is a goddamn Hunter x Hunter thing, but times 10. And I've talked about this before in that episode where we talked about underrated anime, and that was the bio boosted armor Guyver. So basically, like imagine Power Rangers that like really dark and really fucked up kind of stuff.
Like, which one was this called again?
Guyver.
Guyver.
Hmm.
Uh, I heard of this name before. I just can't remember like everything that goes on.
Yeah, it was super popular back in the '90s, and heck, it got like two live action movies. I want to say they were both direct to DVDs. I mean, one had Mark Hamill in it, but and still was pretty bad. But essentially, it's these two guys. They find like this little weird alien thing, and it attaches itself to one of them, and now he's got like this cool armor that and he goes around fighting monsters. But there's a lot of crazy dark stuff going on. A lot of cool powers, really messed up powers because in one scene he kind of question himself like, am I really who I am, or am I just a clone of myself? Because like there's a moment where he kind of dies and comes back to life. But he's like, wait, how did what is going on? And they're like, oh no, you're just a copy of cells. I'm like, so I'm not real? I'm like, well, yeah, Shibatisius. That's for those of you who know. Big kind of stuff.
So so it's almost like Ben 10.
More like Power Rangers, but really messed up. But like with I know where you're going with it. It's a lot of more. It's a lot more cooler. It's like it's one of those like really mature books. And the problem is that it had two adaptations. One like in the
Mm.
'90s where it ended in a weird way, and one in the mid 2000s where it also ended in a weird way, but just a tad bit farther than the last one. By a tad bit farther, I mean like 4 or 5 chapters ahead.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, because it's still as of today in hiatus, and I don't know when. I swear to God, this is it. The manga has not been updated. I'm about to check when was the last manga was, because I'm telling you, this is like Hunter x Hunter times 10. And this is like Berserk times 100 in terms of
I mean,
wait.
look, if Guts can get off that boat, then they'll definitely make a new chapter for Guyver.
I'm starting to think that the writer's dead. Like last, I'm looking up last chapter as we were recording. Last chapter was 189, and that was probably back. Well, I'm just seeing the number, but I want to see the date.
So as far as we know, it was back in 1880. I mean, not 1989.
Let's see. Let's see. This is, okay, the last volume was volume 32, and that was released in 2016.
Okay, so it's not too long. It's still long
Not
though.
too long, but there's not. It's the updates are so random, and the chapters are so random. Or I don't know. Maybe these are planned because half of these don't have a title on them.
Hmm.
I don't know. Someone wants to check on me. Check it on me. This just to let you like to give you an idea. This thing's been around since '86.
Okay, so it's been around almost as long as Berserk.
Yeah, I'm about to check Reddit because it's in case. But no, do you have anything else on to talk about?
Let's see. Is there another anime slash show that I could think of? Let me think. Um, that's a good question. Off the top of my head, probably not, but I will have to think about that. Let's see. Hmm.
I mean, I can go with
I
another
guess
one. Oh, go ahead. Go
I,
ahead.
I would. I'm gonna cheat a bit by saying two different things.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see F-Zero and Kirby.
See, I don't mind those. Those were. I remember watching Kirby as a kid, and that was a pretty fun show.
You can still find episodes of Kirby online. It's easy to find, but for F-Zero, I don't think they ever finished that. I mean, it finished. I just don't think they ever, actually dubbed the entire series.
Fair enough, because I remember watching the last episode, and that was in sub. and that was a long
Yeah,
time
so
ago.
I would love to see a reboot of F Zero because I wanted to do it so we can show Nintendo that we still give a shit about F Zero and we want another F Zero game. And
Hmm.
Kirby, it, the show was great. I wouldn't say it needs a reboot, but I would like to see more episodes from the show.
Fair enough. Fair enough. At least a third or second season. By the way, while I was looking up, apparently the manga, the creator ended up just becoming a dentist. So I'm pretty
Uh,
sure I'm not gonna get an ending at all.
oh, that's a bit.
Just a weird career change, in my opinion. Like I'm gonna write comics and stories. I don't know. You know what? I'd just rather be a dentist. Fair enough.
Yeah, it's so drastic. It's like Bruce Dickinson. Like he used to be a pilot and now he's a singer for Iron Maiden.
Yeah, but that's a step up though. Well, no,
That is a step back though. But
depending on if
still,
it
it's
was
such a drastic change though.
it's a drastic change, but depending on if the band was good was going to be good or not. But he ended up going with a great band. Uh, actually,
Yeah.
he the one who elevated them because when he came in, that's when they really started going up. But besides the point, I do have at least maybe two more to go with, and this one's gonna. You know what? Let's go with the most obvious one that we both have, and then I can talk about the one that really, really made me mad when that was adapted. But let's go with Berserk. Yeah, you can already tell from the expression. If for all you audio listeners, me and Daniel are giving each other like a look, like we know this deserves another goddamn reboot. Because how many times have
I
we rebooted
mean,
this damn thing?
like we see some decent adaptations. Like I think the movies were good. I've seen it. I like the way it was animated back with the original anime, but
In the '90s?
if you've seen the recent one, it's
Oh Lord. Yeah,
it's
no, this
bad.
it lives in infamy as one of the worst adaptations for a manga in a long time, and it's not hard to see why the animation was. You can look up articles, stories, even about what happened with the animation team, on how much it was a nightmare, and like how none of them knew what they were doing. They
Hmm.
like I give them credit. They wanted to try something different, and they wanted
It
to
also
emulate something
yeah,
that was
and
close
it
to
also
manga.
started like the idea where like CGI and anime don't mix whatsoever,
Hmm.
and that was completely proven wrong with B Stars. Like that was a great anime that was in CGI.
Hmm.
High Score Girl. Also another great show I would recommend. Also CGI. In fact, I didn't realize it until like specific scenes where like when the characters move, you can say, "Oh shit, it's CGI the whole
Sometimes you
time."
forget. Sometimes you forget it's CG.
Yeah,
Sometimes
like
you.
I know people have a stigma against it, and it's mainly because of Berserk, because of the way it was, handled and it was poorly done.
Hmm. I mean, part of that was that the director of for the show was someone who is not used to having something stay still. He likes to have a lot of kinetic energy, a lot of moving stuff going around. But with Berserk, it's a very like, and I would recommend looking up any images. Half the time, you just let the image speak, and it just doesn't move, or just a
I
lack
mean,
of movement would be better.
I
Not
mean,
saying he's
like
like
you
not
go,
walking and talking, but I'm like when to really grasp some like the awe of it is just a still thing sometimes, man.
yeah. I mean, like just to make sure you don't see like the Blu-ray release. Make sure you watch a comparison between like the airing and the Blu-ray release, so you can see like what kind of improvements they made and how bad it was when it was first aired. And
Mm-hmm.
either way, like while the Blu-ray did improve it a bit, it's not a lot. It's still kind of bad.
I'll say this: it might be contradictory to a lot of people. I didn't like it, but when I was watching it, I really didn't mind it half the time. I really just ignored it, and that's probably because the story still holds up pretty good.
I
The
mean,
story is
like
still really, really good.
you're not wrong. It's just that sometimes things are just so jarring that I don't even want to watch it. It's like same thing
Oh
with Fist of the Blue Sky, for example. Another
yeah.
show that was done in CGI, and it feels like it feels like I'm pretty much watching like a PowerPoint slide or something like that because like you see the
Yeah.
frames like constantly being choppy and everything with fight scenes and
Hmm.
stuff like that. It's like I can't watch this, man.
It's one of those things where I think Japan hasn't really grasped CGI yet. Where like we're talking about shows like V Star and like High School Girl, they still suffer from like a lack of framing, not framing, but frame rate. Like sometimes it looks very chunky, and for shows like High School Girl, that's kind of fine because the art is really weird for it to be that way. And half of the time,
Yeah. Plus, like,
it's sprites with like all the fighting games. Beastar goes in a way that we know it is, but you kind of like everything's slowed down. Everything's slowed down, so it flows better.
yeah. Let's see. Another good show I heard was good. It was this was the same studio that Debut Star too.
Hmm.
Uh, I think it was called Land of the Illustrious. I just know it as the Japanese Steven Universe, but yeah, basically all the characters are like rocks and gems and stuff. But I heard that was a pretty good show too, considering it being CGI. I haven't seen it yet, but yeah, like we said, they're starting to get a grasp of it. Learning how to make it look good and everything.
Yeah, they're still learning. I mean, like I remember watching. I'm because currently I'm watching like a little bit of the final season of Attack on Titan. I remember everyone complaining about the CGI Titans, but I'm like, yeah, but they've always looked weird. Even in the previous anime studio that did it made them look a lot better. But if we ever read the manga, Jesus Christ, they don't look right half the time, and it makes sense for that. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
not like I'll say this for now. Please leave Mappa Studio alone. They're doing a great job. It's just not what you wanted. So shit. Anyways, it's they're still not there. It's I think it's for some studios they haven't grasped it yet. Some studios have, but we all agree that it's not the worst CGI. Berserk is like level two, like the second worst CGI anime out there. The first one's probably that X Arm stuff that I couldn't even watch 5 seconds of. No,
Like, oh, sorry, you got cut off for a bit. What was the one you were talking about?
oh, like, it's not like it's like X Arms, but that's the worst one. That's CGI look anime that has out. It's out
Oh,
there. We can
I
talk
don't
about
think I heard of that one.
it good because I couldn't. You couldn't last 5 minutes with it. It makes Berserk look okay.
Damn.
Yeah, that's how bad the CGI in that one is. But no, like Berserk is that story where like you can have so many like it's a great it's a great story. It's a great book. The fact that we're getting so many adaptations kind of just tells you like it's such a good story because like we had one in the 90s and then like a cliffhanger where like we want more, but the manga wasn't far enough because I
Yeah.
said it earlier that thing goes through hiatus a lot. Nowadays it's like we get one or two chapters a year and it's like it's great. Been you know, and then some I would say the late 2000s or 2010s, something like that, 2010s or somewhere between that line. We had like a
Yeah.
film trilogy that was like a little more centered around a certain point of the story, and then we get this one that's supposed to like continue the story that no one really liked and no one was really for it, and we just didn't get the kind of thing that we wanted. And it's sad because like I'll say this, Berserk isn't that long of a story.
I
It's
mean,
really not.
yeah. I mean, yeah. You would think just because like, oh, it's started in the '80s and still going on and on. It's like it's not. It's same with. Just imagine that like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Yeah, it was back in the '80s, but it's not that hard to catch up into everything. You can definitely like jump into to where we are right now with JoJo Leon if you actually put the time. If anything, it would
Hmm.
probably take you like a week.
It really doesn't because like I remember reading all of it and I'm like, that wait really? We're at this point of the story and like because sometimes like when I read them online they still have like images from like oh we're getting an anime adaptation and it's like from the 90s and then I'm like wait I'm like chapter 200 whatever and they're only adapting like the first 100 chapters and then I read another like then like 50 chapters later we're getting a new anime in 2000 whatever and I'm like what like there's no
Yeah.
break off it's weird I'm so yeah, no, that's something with me and Daniel. Like, I think everyone wants just a proper Berserk adaptation. I think I say give it another
Mhm.
5 to 5 years, before we can get a proper one, because the way the manga is going, it's going to be a while for us to either continue where we left off or start off from the beginning. And for the love of God, please add the Black Swordsman arc, because that one is continuously ignored. You're saying, Daniel?
What happened?
Oh,
Oh no,
you,
no,
you got cut off.
I was just adjusting my glasses.
No, I'm saying, like, we please adapt the Black Swordsman arc. We've been wanting that arc to be adapted for so long.
Oh shit, yeah, definitely.
And
I mean,
listen,
like,
when you get to the was it the Millennium Falcon? When you get to that, that's where the money needs to go. Where like
yeah, I mean,
he's
like,
fighting, what was his name? But like the fact that we're gushing over it and the fact that we can't get this stuff animated tells you how much bad it is. Oh my god.
yeah. I mean, are they still doing Berserk right now, or they're done with Berserk? Like,
In
not the
terms of
manga, but the
animated,
anime.
I think they're done right now. Or they have something planned. I don't know. I want to say they're done because like that reception for that one was not that great.
Yeah, no.
You know what's even worse though? What's even worse about the
What?
adaptation? They keep having moments of 2D animation that was like, why didn't you do this for the whole show? It looks so good.
I think I saw that. Yeah, like some portions of the show like were animated in 2D, and then it's probably just there for like a second or two, and that's it.
Especially because I remember the last episode of that show. They did do that like, where it's like it's animated in 2D, and you're like, oh my god, this looks amazing. This actually looks really good. I would love to see like a whole season of this. I'm not gonna get that. So it's like almost like a middle finger to you for one last second. Well, not really, because I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure those animators had no choice but to do whatever they could with things they weren't,
Oh yeah.
adapted.
I mean, we already heard the stories, but animators, they're not getting paid enough. They're just doing what they can and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's
I
another story for another
remember.
day.
Yeah. You got one more? Because I got one more.
Let's see. I thought about it, and I said to myself, does he really need a reboot? And then looking about at the last series he got, yeah, it kind of does.
Which is?
So, Sonic the Hedgehog,
That's a
like,
weird one.
it's a weird one, yeah, because I think the last Sonic game I played that I genuinely had fun and thought it was a great game was Generations, and I've really got into Sonic since,
Mm-hmm.
like, ever. It's been a long ass time, but yeah, I just remembered that like Sonic X was an anime, and no, it it was just bad because I think 4Kids was involved with the Sonic X productions. They were telling them they need like a random little kid so they can relate to. They don't know how to relate to a hedgehog, and so they were pretty much forced to stuff in Chris Thorndike, and he became
Yeah,
one of the
it's
most
weird
hated
how a
characters
good chunk
ever.
of like really
He
who is
got
it
cut off.
the main kid?
Yeah, like the main kid
No,
that
no,
finds Sonic in the swimming pool.
oh yeah, no, I hated
Yeah,
that
so
kid. Like he was fine at
yeah,
first, but
like
at some point I'm like, just,
yeah, because I saw the original
you
pitch
think?
online too, and basically like it was just in Sonic's world. Like you see like all these animal characters in there and stuff like that, and that would have been cool and all when I was watching as a kid, but I didn't not I hated that character as a kid, and I still hate him. And if you if you
I didn't
ask
mind
any
him, but
Sonic fan or anything like that, but what happened?
I didn't mind him, but there was a point where I'm like, just shut up.
Like
Like
basically
he really
like
did
yeah,
turn
like
me
the
off.
first two seasons, like they were just adapting Sonic Adventure 1 and then 2, and then people and they kind of butchered the story because they were switch up roles. So Amy was supposed to do this, let's switch it up with Chris, kind of like making Amy useless, and irrelevant to the story. Why is she there? I mean, she didn't do anything. But
Mm-hmm.
it's not all bad apparently from what I heard. Like the last I think it was the last season, they say it was really good, and that was the only thing you should watch, and that's it.
Yeah, no, I get that's when Chris is actually an adult, but some turned into a kid again. I'm like, what the fuck? That's when I stopped watching. But no, no, I get what you're saying. It was an anime that really needed a good touch up.
I mean,
I guess I'm gonna.
it's not all for us. I mean, Sonic Boom was actually a surprisingly good cartoon.
The jokes were a lot more mature than I thought they'd be, but not
I mean,
like
yeah,
oh sex jokes. But I'm like, oh, the when the hell did Knuckles start spitting some knowledge about feminism? What?
yeah, like Knuckles lying about like feminism. Like you kind of undermining it by saying this is a the exception. It's like what
Like
when did
whoa,
Knuckles became smart?
right? Because that iteration makes them dumb. All right, so I got one
Yeah,
more in me, and this one hurts me to my core because it's one of my favorite mangas of all time. You ever heard of Zetman?
which one?
Zetman.
Zetnet? I don't think I have.
I recommend reading it because it's really good. The ending to the book is really weird, and I feel like they want to make another one, but the writer doesn't know how. But essentially, my okay, this is like a 200, 300 chapter book, right?
Yeah,
Manga, and it got adapted to an anime, and I'm like, yeah, I love the book. I love the pacing of it. It's very like Berserk. It's like where it's like there's some dark and cool stuff, but there's also some cool really action scenes. And they ruined it by with the anime by changing this up and ruining the whole pacing of it. I was so upset. So basically, like, there's these two kids, Jin and Koga. They're both like, one of them is like, Koga's like, I want to be a hero. I like watching the superhero. I want to grow up to be a hero. Jin is a street kid who's like, whatever. And you find out that Jin has like sort of powers that he never knew about, and there's like this whole weird, crazy conspiracy and stuff. And in the anime, they know each other. They're friends. They're childhood friends and stuff. But the manga, he's only friends with Koga's sister, and that's what the first one. I'm like, wait, why did you make that change? Because like the important thing is that when the first time Koga went to do his like superhero stuff was what, and he ends up failing. He sees Jin doing like saving someone's life better than him. He's like, I want to be like that guy. He's my
yeah,
inspiration. But by making them friends at the beginning of the show, I'm like, but you take away that important moment. Now it's like, oh, we're my friend from long ago. How good to see you again. Let's go save these people. I'm like, no, dude. Like, you learned a lesson from watching him save people. Where is that moment? And then like they go their separate ways, and like they really do it. And then in the anime, like they go their separate ways, and then they come back like, oh, hey man, long time no see. But in the manga, it takes a lot more time. Like Koa goes through his own story arc that's really like dark and messed up. Like the most messed up thing that happened to him, he was still like a teenager or whatever. No. They made it. They changed that to when he's an adult. Like no, that was an important moment that made him realize some stuff. Why'd you put that at the end? Just so he can go crazy? No, and it upset me because like you essentially you summed up like a 200, 300 chapters into a 13 episode series. You heard me.
yeah. What? What?
They summed up 300 chapter or 200, 300 chapters into a 13 episode series.
You don't do that. You don't
No,
ever do that.
no. That's what I'm saying. I recommend you read the book because the book takes its time. You learn some stuff. You see some character development, and like that scene with Koga and what happens to him was such an important moment that changed him for life. That sets him on his path. It does, and in the anime they put that towards the end when he's an adult, where it doesn't have that much of an impact because in the manga he's still a kid. What he does,
Yeah.
he can't do anything to save these people, and so he ends up messing up,
Hmm.
and that affects him. He makes him want to get better and does all this stuff. That making it at the end kind of defeats that purpose. Also, you change that villain's motivation. It's like whatever. Like I remember reading that and watching that. I was so upset, and it's so tragic because like that could have been like one of the best like anime out there because it's such a good story. And Jin is a
Mhm.
really cool character. I'm glad I didn't do anything bad to him, but I'm like, you just actually no. The beginning of the episode, because like he doesn't transform into his powers until like ish chapter 3, 4. They all do that in one episode. I'm like, no, you gotta build up to that. You know, the
Yeah.
tragic stuff. You gotta let the tragic stuff set in. So when the things happen, things happen. But no, they just rushed through that thing, and that made me so mad. I recommend reading the manga. It's like superhero Berserk with a little bit of the really messed up stuff that happens in Berserk.
Okay. I see.
Yeah,
And
like
it was
literally
called. It was Zetman.
Zetman, Zet man.
Okay.
Also, I recommend if for all you guys out there listening or watching, look up the art for it in like whatever way. The anime captured the art really well, but man, it's like one of the artists I really like look up to because he does amazing art. Like look up his Goku or his Batman is because he likes to draw superhero stuff. Look up those two. I'm like you're like holy shit. I like to see him do stuff like this. But like no man, it's tragic. I wish they did more. But the fact that they rushed into a 13 episode series, I'm like, nah, man, you didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
No, no, you just. So that's. I'm so bad. I feel so bad to ending this on a sour note. But I highly recommend the manga. The manga is so good. It is like it has a lot of cool scenery, a lot of cool designs. Like all the monsters are very bug like, so they can be a little scary. Bug slash lobster kind of thing. So like if you
Mhm.
see like they're not horrible, like say something like I said from Berserk, but it's kind of like that thing where like yeah they look kind of creepy. I don't want to be anywhere near that.
Yeah.
And there's some real cool like um, undertones going on, but it's a really good show. Manga, I'm sorry, read the manga, and I really want them to do it again, but better. But probably not because the manga is done, and it's like at a cliffhanger where I'm like, I want more. Don't do this to me, man. Don't do this to me. I want you to keep going, but But actually, I think you might have at least seen some of that artist's work. But anyways, I feel bad for any of the sour nope guys. But if you guys got any anime that you feel needs a reboot or a second season, I know we want to talk about the reboots because like there's a lot of shows that really need a better taste because most of us have read the manga kind of stuff.
Hmm.
I don't know unless you got another show that needs a second season.
Uh, this is just. I'm just gonna say this as an honorable mention because I only have one
Yeah.
reason why I want the show to get a reboot. I
Mm.
want Bobo to get a reboot just so I can see a scene where Bobo he takes off the lid of his afro, then Yugi from Yu-Gi-Oh pops out of his afro, plays Slifer the Red Dragon, and then uses Slifer to defeat Bobo's enemy.
Okay, then that definitely needs a reboot.
I mean, it's so crazy when you read it in the manga too, because he actually got the guy that draws Yugi and everything for the Yu-Gi-Oh manga, to come in and actually draw Yugi popping out of Bobo's head.
That's badass. Thanks for
It
for
just,
ending this at a lighter note.
just you guys have to look it up. I can't. I know how to describe it, but you have to see it for yourself, and it's amazing.
Oh yeah.
And
But
it's a funny show too. I definitely would recommend Bobo.
yeah, like I said, if you guys got any second season shows that you feel like need second seasons or reboot, let us know. And please yell at us for not mentioning No Game No Life season 2. Yeah,
I haven't seen that still.
I haven't seen it either, and I'm not gonna. That's why I didn't mention it. I can't talk about a show that I've never seen. But anyways,
I mean, but yeah, be helpful. I mean, like I said, the Devil is a part timer. Just got a second season after 8 years, so
mhm.
keep your keep your hopes up. Maybe Spice Wolf can get a season 3. Maybe you'll get another season of No Game No Life. But the future's
maybe
unpredictable.
maybe I'll get a proper adaptation of that man. That's all I want.
Yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, guys, thanks for checking us out. Um, you can follow us on social media through Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the Geek Centurions, where you can see anything we post. We mostly post on Instagram. And if you go on Instagram, there's a link tree to all the podcasting sites that we are officially on, like Castbox, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, and all that such. And there's also a link to our YouTube where you can put a face to these voices and all that kind of stuff. Like, comment, and subscribe. And like I said, let us know if we missed anything that you feel needs a reboot and or second season, because there's a lot of animes. Again, sorry we didn't mention No Game No Life because I've never seen that anime and I'm probably don't plan to. And if you want to support us in any form of way, you do have a Patreon. Any form of donation counts. There's a lot of stuff we want to do. We can't do them right now. Kind of. I mean, we're in Texas. There's some stupid stuff going on. Don't want to go into. Anyways, so yeah, it's been fun and we enjoyed talking about anime. And hopefully we can do more anime content centered around, because we do a lot of other stuff. Like we also like to talk about other things. We just really don't have the time for them, or like we can't really figure out an episode and make out of it. Which is the kind of a weird thing about it. So yeah. Anyways, it's been your boy Eli.
And it's been Daniel. Remember to, hashtag bring back KI and play, Skullgirls season 1. And it's a lot of fun.
Or yeah, that's so much guilty gear. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening to us and hearing us rant about anime and why Zetman and Berserk need a proper adaptation. Anyways, guys, have a good one and stay safe out there. Peace.